YouTube, how we doing? Past the prop, back here again. We're here. We're going to be breaking down the whole wild card weekend breakdown here. We got, 6 games ready to go on the docket here. It's going to be a fun one. Joined as always by my guy, Stu. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Can't complain. It's one of those weeks, no Monday night football, no Thursday night football. So we really just have all week to kind of sit around and focus in on these games. So I've been dying to talk about them. We obviously scratch the itch a little bit on Monday. We had a best ball draft. If you're into that, you haven't checked it out, make sure to check out the Monday show. We went over the Texans game a little bit, but outside of that, we really haven't talked too much at all. So excited to dive into every single one of these games and, hopefully, start making a little bit of money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Should be fun. As always, I love these breakdown slates, especially when it gets to playoff time. We got our special guest back here again, our boy Jacob popping back in here, ready to talk some football with us. How you been, man?
Good, man. Yeah, it's exciting. Loaded wildcard slate, tons of great matchups, and I'm honestly just happy to be done talking about some of these crappy teams that we've had this year. I feel like this season especially, the bottom of the league was just so bad, and I'm tired of talking about the Titans and the Jets every week. So I'm excited to get into these matchups and some really great ones to start us off for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm happy when you started talking about, bad teams that you didn't put the Carolina Panthers in that bad team because
I like to
make us money here, man. The Panthers have been just an absolute wagon for us not us, me probably, because I just been throwing my neck out on that Bryce Young line, and he's been plus 11 in a lot of these games, and they keep covering spreads. So, I've been a little bit more of a Panthers guy lately. I don't know why. They've just wanted to make us money here.
Bryce is balling out, man, for sure.
Yeah, dude, he looks good. And I'm happy for him just because of all the shit that's had to go through for those. So we'll let some people pop on in here. We got MCI in here popping in. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people lost money on that Vikings game, man. That was a tough one. Do you guys want to say anything about that game? I know we didn't really even get to talk about that game on the Monday show. We just kind of started going into some picks and stuff. So anything you guys want to talk about for that game? Obviously a kind of a beatdown on that side. A lot of opportunities in the first half for that Vikings side, but just couldn't cash in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say. That game sucked. If you bet overs, you probably lost. And I didn't see many people betting unders, for good reason too. So yeah, that game sucked. Hopefully we get a better version in the playoffs of both of those two teams, especially the Vikings, because it's been a bunch of really bad showings for the Vikings, and they've earned their spot. You know what I mean? They're a good team, but the whole world is very low on them right now. And you kind of touched on it, imagine they just get their asses beat, against that's such an unceremonious end to the season. So I'm rooting for the Vikings. I hope they can pull through, but Sam Darnold's he's playing for a lot of money here. If he has a good game here, he really does a lot for himself as well. So it'll be interesting if KOC and the guys can get him a win in the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's interesting. It felt like we were trending towards okay, there's zero chance they're letting Darnold go after this year, even though JJ McCarthy's obviously waiting. I'm a Michigan guy, so I love JJ, and I think he has great potential. But after that Sunday night game, it feels like it kind of, all right, let's put the brakes on here. We'll reassess. The interesting thing to me is entering that game, you have the Lions who play more man coverage than anybody, and Darnold this year ranks third in EPA per dropback against man coverage, and against zone coverage, he's 20th. So you look at that split, and then you look at the Lions with all their defensive injuries, and it felt like everything was lining up for Darnold to just torch them. And obviously that's just not what happened at all.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I kind of looked over too that I didn't really realize how crazy of an impact Anzalone is on that defense, because, bro, he just kind of Hawkinson's just been in that little safety blanket underneath that he's been able to just get free catches to when that blitz has been coming on him. And, he shut him down, man. He played some good defense in there. And obviously getting that week off for the Lions is probably more important than anybody with all those injuries to that defense. So fantasy better popping in here as well. Appreciate you guys popping in a little bit early with us, but we'll be ready to roll. We're going to jump right on into it. We got about 30 of you guys in here the first 5 minutes. We appreciate you. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. I don't think we'll be dropping any picks outside of our long shots here on the show. We'll be doing all breakdowns here, but looking forward to it. Let's get to that 20 unit mark here for the show. Yeah, it's exciting. We got some really good games. I know we touched on this one a little bit here. But the first game of the weekend, mind you, I'm using DraftKings for all these just because it's a lot easier just to go down the board. Obviously, if you want to go and find a better book, we obviously encourage that. Go find a better line, but we're just going to use DraftKings just for the overlying views here. First game of the week, we got Chargers minus 2.5 at Houston, over under 42.5. I know we talked a little bit about this one on our last show, kind of talking about some dogs that we liked. I'll kick it over to you, Sue, if you want to start us off. We usually like to use the four sides, either you're taking the dog at the 2.5, favorite at 2.5, or the over under. Kind of give us your breakdown on this one, and you think the dogs could be barking here with Houston at home?
Yeah, and I'm trying to look around for like threes right now because when we talked the other day, it was. But like you said, widely available 2.5. For me, 3 is such a key number in this one. I do like the Texans. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. I'm just going to sink with the ship. I know it's ugly. I know it was a brutal, primetime ending in that Ravens game. Obviously, you get the safety. It kind of looks like the tides could be turning in that game. Like, I remember watching that and kind of feeling like if you guys could show me something here, that would be amazing. And they didn't, unfortunately. But my problem still comes down to the Chargers as like a field goal or more favorites. Like 2.5 is still, borderline, obviously. You need them to win by that field goal there. And for me, this does feel like a field goal game either way, 2 above average defenses on both sides. But I think I've kind of talked about it a decent amount. The Chargers do obviously benefit from some above average skill position players. But when it comes to like their advanced metrics, I still think they're a little bit more scary than this defense actually is itself. It's just kind of, can Houston take advantage? And I think really a big part of it's going to be Houston's ground game in this one. I mean, this is a team we've gone on and on and on about it, but they're going to run on every 1st and 10. And then they're probably going to run again on every 2nd and 9, right? Even if it's not successful, this is a team that they constantly put CJ in these rough 3rd down positions. And last year he overcame them at such a high rate where he was spectacular, right? And this year it hasn't been the case. And he's looked just as bad, right? So they put a lot of pressure on him to convert in these high leverage situations. I still do think he's the kind of quarterback that can rise to the occasion. Obviously, both of these quarterbacks are in the playoffs right here. But I think if Houston can control the game enough on the ground, if Joe Mixon, who I think is going to get 18 to 20 carries in this game, if he can be above 4 yards per carry, just keep the chains moving, slow this game down a little bit, then I think Houston should be in a pretty good position to cover. We already touched on a little bit earlier in the week, but that defensive line for Houston is still very strong. And I got a lot of problems with what Justin Herbert's going to do when Ladd McConkey's got like a shadow corner following him around all game. Because this year, Ladd has been fantastic. We bet on Ladd a ton, but he's benefited from some pretty good coverages. What happens when you're the focus of attention, right? When they got one of the better corners in the league over there that I think is probably going to follow you around all game. Because what, are we taking Quinn Johnston out of this game? I mean, you can buy high on that 13 catch game if you want, but we've watched this guy all year long. And I'm really not confident in the weapons outside of him. So that's kind of what it comes down to for me. Like, I don't see the Chargers running away with this game on offense. I always think it's going to be like within a coverable distance. And I do think that Houston is going to be live to win. So I don't mind Houston at all. I would prefer a 3 though over a 2.5. So maybe you have to be a little bit patient, or you can get like a minus 115 on like MGM right now.
Yeah, so I'm assuming if you're the way you're talking about it, you probably lean under then on that. If you had to lean, I would assume if you're talking about the running like that. And like, I feel like if you're betting Houston, you got to be kind of leaning the under, right? That'd be kind of the way you look.
Yeah, I mean, both of these quarterbacks, I have a lot of faith in, so that's what it challenges the under a little bit at times, but generally, yeah, I think this is a game out. If I had to, I'd take the under.
Beautiful. Jacob, any thoughts on this one? Thoughts on the total at all? Obviously, Sue gave a pretty good breakdown there. You got anything on like a total here, or any guy that's sticking out to you, maybe thinking maybe just a guy maybe in the prop market that might be catching your eye?
Well, a quick question for Steve before I get into a little bit of breakdown. Are you projecting Derek Stingley to play in the slot in this game?
I don't think he's going to be a full-time slot guy, but they asked him to follow around Tyreek Hill in the slot earlier in the year. So I think for important, like, I don't think it's going to be 100% shadow, but I think Ladd is going to see a little bit tougher coverage in this one. That would be my guess.
Yeah, it's fair. Like, their perimeter receivers aren't scaring you the way Ladd is. So that's
at all.
point. I am very curious to see how they handle it with Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie out, because those have been kind of their two primary slot guys. I don't have faith in Miles Bryant to cover him in the slot, so we'll see if that's a matchup. But I do think J.K. Dobbins being back for the Chargers offense is really significant. First 12 weeks, they were 15th in rushing EPA. And then from week 13 to 16, they were 30th. So, 15th isn't great, but it's enough that you can have some balance on offense, and it's not all falling on Justin Herbert. And then I think the Chargers can run some heavy personnel packages here, like play some 2 tight end stuff and like mitigate that pass rush a little bit. But the bigger thing to me is I just have no faith in the Texans offense right now. Finished the year 31st in early down success rate, and that was ahead of only the Browns, who started 4 different quarterbacks this year. They were poor in early down success rate last year too, but CJ Stroud, like you said, made up for it with being a third down wizard. It was never sustainable. I thought they were going to find some solutions to it. The offensive line's been terrible. The injuries to Steph Diggs and Tank Dell obviously haven't helped, but all year we've seen Stroud struggle against 2 high defenses, and that's what Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator, runs better than just about anybody schematically. I think their personnel isn't the best, but I mean, they've had these breakout performances for these 5th-round corners that they drafted. Tarkib still, I think, finished 3rd in coverage DVOA among corners. So they've really elevated the talent on this roster. And to me, the Chargers are the better coached team, the team with a quarterback playing better overall right now. And yeah, I like the Chargers to win this one. You're not getting insane value on the -2.5, obviously. And I understand why people would want to take the 3 as the home underdog with Houston. But I really think the Chargers are going to win this one. And honestly, I think the Chargers are alive to beat the Chiefs next week too, which is a big hot take to come with. But the Chiefs are vulnerable, man. I could go into a bunch of different things, but the Chiefs are vulnerable. And I think the Chargers are alive to make a little bit of a run here.
Yeah, I like that hot take there with the. I remember everybody was betting the Chargers like early in the season when they looked really, really good. But I think what you said about Dobbins was big, because we saw, I know Stu talked about this in like week 6 when the Chargers just completely flipped how they played football, right? They started throwing the ball around the yard. But we've seen them win those like real close, gritty type games where they're running the ball like 30 times, right? We saw that in the beginning of the season. Obviously, their defense was doing very, very well at the beginning of the season, and the strength of schedule early on wasn't great. But we have seen it where Herbert only had to throw the ball 25 times, and they're still able to get the job done. I talked about this a little bit on Monday, where I definitely would be probably leaning with the Chargers. I just think if they would have had one of the other receivers back, maybe I'd give it to them. Like maybe I'd play it at the 3. It's just I have a hard time, dude, because I thought Dalton Schultz would step up. I lost so much DFS money on fucking Dalton Schultz. Don't get me started on Dalton Schultz. I thought he would step up a lot more than he has. And talking about a guy who stepped up, Will Dissly on the other side kind of did, right? He kind of took a step up. When we saw Quentin Johnson early in the year just could not catch a ball, right? He couldn't catch anything. Obviously, the injury to Joshua Palmer, I need to see him back in there too, so we can kind of get that ball running down the field. But they need that deep threat, though. Just a guy, they don't have it, right? What they have, DJ Chark like at the beginning of the year? I thought he was on the Chargers for a little while at the beginning of the year, just running straight routes. You know what I mean? But just to have someone else that's capable, because you're right, I do not fully trust Quentin Johnson, but it isn't bad that he had that huge game right before the playoffs, because it's like, oh, we've seen that this guy actually can catch a ball, and I can't just leave him wide open, right? Because early in the year, you could throw it and hit him in the helmet. He wasn't catching. So I mean, I'm definitely leading the Chargers. I mean, I don't even know what the money line is there if you wanted to kind of pair it with your favorite other one, but -162. If you're wanting to roll with how the next game where how shitty the Steelers have looked, maybe you just throw them in like a parlay there. I'm not usually a big money line parlay guy, but just to kind of negate some of that juice. But because I feel it when we talk about that next game, we're not going to be talking about the Steelers too much in the win column there. So I'm feeling pretty good about that one. So under probably lean from you, Stu. Jacob, any lean on the total there before we get to the next game?
Lean the under. I like the Texans team total under. If you can get like 20.5 there.
Okay.
But yeah, I like the Chargers here.
Beautiful. Yeah. Sorry to kind of ruin it a little bit early, guys, but we're going to a game that we're probably not going to talk too much on here with a big boy spread. Obviously the Steelers heading into the Ravens, obviously AFC North battle. I know a lot of people talk about that Lamar Jackson struggles against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but man, that team looked brutal, man. That offense just could not move the ball. And if you're giving Lamar Jackson a bunch of short fields, it's going to be a tough matchup here for the Steelers, who are struggling, kind of limping into the playoffs here. I'll kick it over to you, Jake, to start us off on this one. Any thoughts on this one, spread-wise, or a lean on the total?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens win, obviously, but I can't lay -9.5 against Mike Tomlin, man. Like, there's just some voodoo stuff that's going to happen. There's going to be a fumble here, like a blocked field goal there, and like there's going to find ways to hang around here. But man, Russell Wilson's been terrible. And as a Broncos fan myself, like I was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop when they put him in the lineup and he was thriving. And I was like, okay, like let's see how this actually ends up panning out. Since week 14, out of 34 qualified quarterbacks, he's 32nd in yards per attempt at 5.7. And you put that against the Ravens, whose pass defense has really elevated over the past few weeks. Since week 11, they're number 1 in pass defense EPA. They did a bunch of different stuff like changing around the lineup, Kyle Hamilton playing more free safety, Marlon Humphrey more of a full-time slot, just kind of reorganizing the defense, and it's really paid dividends for them. And then, I mean, this Ravens offense, man, nothing more needs to be said. Historically great by DVOA metrics, and I think Derrick Henry is just going to get a ton of carries in this spot. I played his rushing attempts prop. Really like that angle. I think it's up to 20.5 now, which I would still play, but you could also take like 20-plus attempts in the Ravens' money line as an alternate there. But, yeah, I mean, I like the Ravens. I think the Ravens are the most complete team in football right now. I'd be curious if you guys have a take on that. I took them to win the Super Bowl at 11-1 a few weeks ago. I'd still be playing that 6-1 that's out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a tougher road to victory there. You know what I mean? Obviously, the extra challenge. And I guess for me too, you mentioned some problems with the Chiefs. For me, like I'm on the other side. I'm fully right back in on the Chiefs. I'm so in on them being bad in the regular season, like when they don't care at all, and actually like turning it up a little bit with the best quarterback in football. Like, I don't know. It's interesting because I do like the Ravens a lot and I like what they've done. I think Zay Flowers is really huge, and the full impact may not be felt in the Steelers game, but when you then face a tougher task next round, then Rashad Bateman being your number 1, to me, I get some anxiety with that. You know, maybe Zay Flowers can rush back. Maybe he sneaks back in there in a less effective role. I wouldn't be holding my breath for that personally. I feel like Harbaugh is going out there. The day-to-day was a little bit aggressive. You know, I don't think that was a true report on his actual health. I think that was a little bit of coach speak, you know, trying to get that into the media there. So I don't know. For this game in particular, it would be the same thing where I think the Ravens are going to win, but I wouldn't be betting them at -9.5 right here. If anything, I think I would have to go to the Steelers, especially if it gets even higher, 10.5. I think it's going to be a somewhat low-scoring game no matter what. We know the Ravens have the potential to run it up, right? But the Steelers' win condition is keeping this as ugly as humanly possible. It's mucking it up. And the Steelers can do that with the best of them. And that's why I struggle to count Russ out. Same with how I struggle to kind of count the Texans out as well, like these teams that are coming in terrible form. Like there's a higher gear we know they've been at, right? It's not like something we've never seen before. And my biggest thing, once again, is like I think the path, similarly with the last game, is on the ground. Like if you want to win in these uglier kind of situations, you need to be able to control time of possession a little bit better. You need to keep their offense off the field. That's never really been possible against the Ravens this year. Like that plan of attack, running on the ground, opening things up with play action has not worked against them at all. And that's kind of the Steelers' win condition here. So for that reason, like it's really hard to back them. I want to go to Pickens' longest reception again. That's the question I'm getting the most so far. Opened at 23.5. Like I'm not going to say anything negative about that because even in a rough matchup, right? Even with the Ravens team that went from a team that was allowing a lot of explosive plays in the beginning of the year to really kind of nailing that and doing a lot better in the second half of the season, the Steelers' game plan is so centered around Pickens coming down with at least one of these 50-50 balls, where no matter how bad the matchup would possibly be, like I would still be interested in Pickens' longest reception, especially at 23.5. So like, I'm not going to say anything bad about that one. I'll probably have some George Pickens exposure, despite the fact that, you know, I bet on him last week and it was pretty disgusting, right? Whether either from an effort perspective or just in general, watching that game coming down with a couple near misses. Like, it's going to be brutal, but, I'll probably have to go back to Pickens again.
Yeah, I like what you talked about with kind of, mucking up this game, because we did see the Steelers beat the Ravens, right, earlier in the year, 18-16, and they had almost, I think it was like 37 minutes time possession, just holding the ball. We're getting like 4 yards a pop, doing Najee things, running into the back of the center and falling forward, getting 3 yards. And hey, guess what? They would go for it, get that first down, and they're just kind of holding the ball. We saw Pickens in that game get 80 yards. But I do like what Jake said there a little bit, where it's like, this is a different defense. It looks so much better than it did at the beginning of the year. This team was getting torched at the beginning of the year. And even in that time, we didn't really see Pittsburgh take advantage through the air too much there. So you guys know I'm a Russ fan. I'm a Badger fan, so I got to be a Russ guy. But, yeah, maybe I'll start looking at like completion lines for Russ. Just maybe we try to get that ball out a little bit quicker. You talked about how short of a routes and how quick these balls were getting out in that game, right? He had 23 completions and 5.7 average yards in their win. And that's how they won the game, just kind of holding them down and keeping them off the field. So I definitely would it's tough for me to bet 9.5 against Tomlin. I know I'm a big Tomlin guy as well, but yeah, it's a tough spot, dude. It's a tough spot. I feel like all of us are kind of leaning that under. Is anybody different on that, leaning over at all? Or you think this is going to be kind of one of those AFC North battle playoff spots where it could see get kind of ugly?
I think it's a fair total. I mean, I would have to lean the under just because, like I said, I think that's the Steelers' only path to victory. But, like, if you told me the Ravens scored 30 in this one, I'm not surprised at all. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of – even in a tough matchup. So it's always hard to bet under with the Ravens involved.
Beautiful. Yeah, slightly into the under for me. Wouldn't mind, like, a team total play on the Steelers. But I also like the Ravens' first half. The trends are pretty strong there. Steelers are the worst first half spread team since 2021, and we know Lamar Jackson just a demon in the first half. Most profitable first half spread quarterback, I think, of all time. So lean to the Ravens in the first half. I think it's like -6.5.
We got our guy Fantasy Better popping in here. Is if we haven't talked about the game that you like the best for this spot, what's the best escalator bet to go with this weekend? Is Derrick Henry that guy? Like, if we're going to expect him to kind of be, fed 20, 25 times. We saw the 162 from him in the last game against the Steelers. Obviously, a couple pretty big runs there. If we haven't talked about the guy that you're thinking for your escalator bet, hold it off there for your, going up the ladder. But is Derrick Henry one of those guys? I know, Jake, you're pretty heavy on him with the attempts. You think he's going to get upwards of 100, get up there, and have a chance to climb that escalator a little bit?
I mean, I do. I just don't think there's any great value in his lines.
What's his rushing yards at right now?
It's like over under 99.5, I think, is the last I saw.
Damn, that's crazy, bro.
I was going to say, you can't really ladder that, It's when you're starting at 100. You can't really go too many.
But for me, that one might be more like what you've been playing, Stu, with Saquon at the end of the year, where it's like the longest rush, like at 30 yards, because we've seen him in those games kind of get those, middle of the third quarter. These dudes are gassed. He's already got 18 carries. He just kind of busts one, So that might be something that we look forward to, maybe betting on Friday and looking at that. But I know I just found out, Jake, that you are a Denver fan. So I'm going to let my guy Stu go first on this one. We got Buffalo at home. Got the crazy fans out there bringing in the rookie Bo Nix. Who's done fantastic, looked absolutely fantastic this year. They put an absolute beatdown on the third stringers of the Chiefs heading into this one. Any thoughts here, Stu? 8.5, dude. It's starting to climb a little bit. I mean, it's a pretty big margin, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned, though, it's a tough draw for Bo Nix, right? A road rookie playoff debut against the Bills, one of the rowdiest spots around, right? It'll be interesting. I haven't been high on Denver really all year long, to be completely honest. So it's kind of hard for me to get to them here in this game. But 8.5 is interesting. It's a
high enough where it makes you think a little bit.
Yeah, because I do like Josh Allen a lot. I like his dual threat abilities, like on the ground. And I think a team like the Broncos, who are so good in structure, but they haven't had to face too many quarterbacks that can really thrive at an elite level outside of structure. Obviously, Lamar Jackson would be one of those, and that game did not go super well for Denver. I'm just kind of curious. Like, they're so good. They're such a strong unit. They're very good at limiting explosive plays. Like, they do, pretty much exactly what you want them to do. But like when you get a quarterback like Josh Allen, who kind of does everything on his own terms, right? A lot of it's off script. He can extend plays with his legs. I think that's where a team like Denver could be a little bit more susceptible. The question is just like, can they keep up, right? On the other side of the ball, can they score enough? I'm not sure that's the case. Also, we talk about this a lot. Having a guy like Patrick Surtain is so awesome. It's unfortunate, though, when you got to stick him against Keon Coleman all game. It's like, congrats, you won this battle. You got Keon Coleman out the game. That's not what they were too concerned about anyway. I mean, and Buffalo's been great at scheming up touches for running backs. The only problem is hard to bet on them. You think it's going to be James Cook. Okay, Ray Davis gets the 17-yard catch, Ty Johnson. I mean, they use them all. But I think like some of Denver's strengths are going to be mitigated a little bit right here. And I like Buffalo in the game. So I'll take the over. If I had to pick one, I'd take the over. That's where I'd go. I think Denver can score enough, and I think this should be a good game. But overall, I think Buffalo challenges that elite defense in some tough ways that they aren't quite ready for on a big stage. So I'm excited for this one. Should be a good one.
Yeah, this is like one of those spreads that I was like, damn, I might have to lean towards the dog. I think all three of our teams, like our favorite teams, I kind of lean towards the dog with this spot just because that's a lot of freaking points, dude. That's a lot of points. I really liked what I've seen from Bo Nix, obviously being able to get the ball out quick, having receivers who are great after the catch. Obviously, Stu cashed in with Mims last week. I think that's going to obviously be a big part of that game plan, seeing him finally, take those steps up that he did. He kind of looked like what he did in college, right, where he's making all those big plays. I'm honestly kind of wanting to look at the weather. I haven't looked at weather or any reports on that, just because Buffalo, I can see that one being a pretty cold one there in the middle of January. So could be a fun one in that aspect, but Denver just stops the run so well. I think they're like second in yards per attempt defensively. So could see that maybe turn into a little bit more of those Josh Allen rush attempts, right? I know that's usually the spots we go to when these games stay close and, no bigger time than the playoffs, right? So I definitely would lean towards probably Josh Allen being the rushing leader on that side. Maybe that's a bet I look at for a long shot or something. Maybe they'll give me some decent plus money spots on the top rusher of the game, just because I kind of feel like it's going to have to be Josh Allen. He's going to have to do everything. But I know we talked about Surtain on Monday too. It just kind of sucks. It's just like if Denver played, like the Packers, right? Who are you going to put them on? Like they're all the same. Like there's nobody that kind of takes that step forward here. I mean, you could put them on like 42-year-old Amari Cooper who doesn't get separation anyway, right? So it's like it's tough because obviously that's a very, very strong suit of this team is having probably the best corner in football there. So I'll let you take it away here, Jake. I think again, if I had to, I'd probably lean Denver at that 8.5. Maybe we'll get a 9. Maybe we'll see some of those crazy guys out there in Buffalo just hammering it, drunk at the pregame thing out tailgate, and you just start seeing all the money come in because all these dudes just throwing hammers on it out in the cold weather before the game with their shirts off, throwing it on their DraftKings account. So definitely might wait there, maybe get a little bit better price, but I think 8.5 would be where I'd go. What's your thoughts? Obviously, you're a little bit closer to the situation.
Yeah, I would say if you like the Broncos to wait, I think it'll move out of the teaser zone. This is going to be the most teased side of the weekend, I would assume, with the Bills down to 2.5. But, I mean, Josh Allen's fantastic. The Broncos defense, I think, has struggled when it's faced some top offenses. Last 3 games against top 12 offenses by DVOA, allowing 35 points per game. So the Bills are going to get theirs. The question is, can their defense hold up? And since week 9, they're dead last in passing success rate allowed. And I think Sean Payton's going to have some tricks up his sleeve here. Really just kind of go balls to the wall here and like nothing to lose. Like, let's see some trick plays. Let's see some reverses. Like everything he has in that playbook, like empty it now. So I'm excited to see that. My favorite play in this game right now is going to be Josh Allen's rushing yardage play. You guys both alluded to it. It's Josh Allen in the playoffs, 70 rushing yards in both games in the playoffs last year, over 38.5 in 7 of 10 career playoff games, averaging 56 yards per game. And the Broncos are a defense that they run a ton of man coverage and they blitz a ton. And both those things really strongly correlate with quarterback rushing yards. So love Josh Allen to have a big day on the ground. And I like that angle on to lead the game in rushing. I mean, it's not going to be a Broncos running back. The Broncos have, I think, 33 straight games now without a 100-yard rusher, which is just insane. But yeah, I like that angle a lot too.
Beautiful. Just taking a look. I guess this is a question from MCI. We'll send it over to Jake, obviously being a Broncos fan. If you had to guess, not saying there's actually going to be one, is there anybody who's going to hit over 50% of the opportunities? You know, it's just like we've seen Estimate get a lot more towards the end of the season. We got McLaughlin. I don't even know if he's like a receiver now or if he's an actual running back. We never know. Javonte, we thought we'd take a step forward. Hasn't seen that. Any thoughts? I would just not bet a Broncos running back if I had the choice. There's a ton of games this week, guys. There's a lot better places to go. But if you had to think, if you had to pick one, where would you kind of be leaning to in the biggest game of the year?
I refuse to pick one. Julian McLaughlin has the most juice in the group, but Sean Payton every week has just been rotating guys out, and like as soon as you think it's Audric Estime, the next week it's Javonte Williams, and it's never been consistent. So I definitely wouldn't trust it.
If anyone, if you have to, it's Bo Nix. That's who you go to.
Yeah, that's
yeah. He had like a nice 40-yarder in that last game. Yeah, nice little cooking those guys.
Yeah, it's just like betting on Drake May in the second half of the season where it's like all scrambles. You're not really getting any like fun, cooked up design runs. They could in the playoffs, though, like you mentioned, with how you kind of got to mix things up a little bit here, try to catch him by surprise. I think the only thing Payton's probably bummed out, he can't surprise onside kick in this game anymore. You know, once they take that out the road.
You gotta tell him, bro. You say it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, I'm definitely can't go first here. We're moving on to the second game of Sunday, this is when me and Stu start getting all three of our teams play on Sunday, so it's just kind of going on the list. So my Packers heading to Philly, 45.5 total. I know we got a lot of Eagles fans in the chat as always, so I'll keep my opinions as nice as I can, but I'll let you, Stu, because I know you have the same type of Eagles hatred as I do, at least this week. You probably have more, being an NFC East guy out there. But any thoughts on this one? Obviously, 4.5. Again, we didn't line chop or any. I've seen some 4s around there as well. Any thoughts here? Packers heading into Philly.
Yeah, I mean, last year I placed 2 futures bets as soon as the Super Bowl ended. Like I did a show right after the Super Bowl, and one of them was Eagles and the other was Texans. I'm not a futures bettor, so I haven't really added to my portfolio. So that's still what I have right now. And I don't like the Eagles. If you watched the show for a while, I'm not a fan in general. And Jalen Hurts obviously has been a big part of that. My biggest problem, though, is they kind of are back to that squad, like the same build of team where they're not dependent on their quarterback anymore. Like you have such a strong defense now. You have such a strong running game with Saquon Barkley. And then when the team has to stack the box against you, when they have to sell out to stop Saquon, okay, now Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, and A.J. Brown are in man coverage. Like, that's great. It's like they're a really fucking hard team to beat. And for me, I don't think the Packers can beat them. I like the Eagles in this game. I'm sorry to go against you here. I wish Christian Watson was healthy. And Romeo Doubs questionable now as well. I think the Packers' path to victory here is explosive plays, right? It's kind of taking advantage of some of these younger corners that have been fantastic so far, but you got to prove yourself in the biggest moments, right? And I think Jordan Love he's a guy that we know likes to throw the ball down the field, right? We know he can do that at a very high level, and that you need those high variance plays to go in your favor. Yep. Because my problem is the Packers, I've actually loved them in the second half of the year. I've loved Josh Jacobs because he's been their win condition. And I don't know if a running back can be your win condition against the Eagles with that D-line, especially the interior defensive line. That's kind of what it comes down to me. Like I like, for the same reason that I like Joe Mixon rushing overs on attempts, particularly not on yards, on attempts, I would also like Josh Jacobs on attempts because I think so much of the game plan is going to be like, we got to get this guy going. And if he's not, then it's going to get kind of bad, kind of ugly. So that's kind of my take. I do hope the Packers can knock them off, obviously get the Eagles out of here. That would be a great time. But I don't see a path to victory without the running game being strong. And I have a hard time seeing them establish the run in this game.
All right, Jake, your thoughts here. Obviously, we've heard Stu's. We'll kick it over to you here. Eagles getting 4.5 in this one.
Yeah, it sounds like I grabbed the Eagles Super Bowl ticket at around the same time. So I'm riding that one. I wouldn't necessarily lay the 4.5 with them here. I'm a little bit worried about Jalen Hurts coming into this one. He's going to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit rusty. And we've seen him struggle to pick apart zone coverages at times this season. He's 33rd in passing DVOA against zone coverage, and that's what the Packers do. They're a zone defense, second highest rate. So Jeff Hafley, the coordinator, I think he'll have a good game plan here. Saquon's going to cook, obviously, on the ground like he always does. But my favorite play here is on the first half under. I grabbed that at 23.5. I think there might be still some 23s out there. But yeah, I think this is going to be a slower start. Jalen Hurts a little bit rusty coming into this one potentially. And then this Eagles defense, man, I think it's the best defense in the league right now. Vic Fangio has them humming on that end. And when these teams played earlier this season in week 1, I bet the under in that game, and it ended, I think, like 34-29. So I was dead wrong there. But I did expect that under Hafley and Fangio, we'd see these defenses really take a step forward. And that's been the case. And we know these teams want to run the ball. They're both top 3 in rush rate. So I think early on, we're going to get a pretty slow start defensive game and very heavy rushing attacks. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this is like 10-3 Eagles going to the break. So I like the first half under quite a bit.
Yeah, no, and I think what's kind of big for me is even with Watson going down, I think we see a lot more 2 tight end from the Packers here because Musgrave is back. I think that's something no one really talked about because he's been kind of used more as a pass blocker, but he's been really good when he's got an opportunity. So being able to use Kraft and him, because Kraft was actually the second string when they got drafted. They got both of them at the same time, and they actually used Musgrave as a pass catcher, and Kraft was the blocker. But now they're obviously we've seen Tucker Kraft take a huge step forward this year. So I like having both of them. Obviously, Josh Jacobs going to have to do quite a bit. Exactly, MCI. The only guy I'm really trusting right now, honestly, is going to be Wicks. I really like Wicks this week. I'm probably going to bet on him because he's going to be the third string guy who's going to kind of he's got to get the better matchup because they got 2 really good corners, and Wicks just kind of moved everywhere, dude. They just kind of throw him everywhere. He's kind of a little Swiss Army knife. What I expected Jaden Reed to be doing at the end of the year, that's what he's doing now. So the Packers just have a freaking stable of these like average receivers. So obviously Bo Melton's probably going to be in there if you want to take something crazy, playing his longest reception up there. He's been explosive when he's gotten the opportunities. I think what I'm going to be betting Edgerrin Cooper. That's for damn sure. Edgerrin Cooper has been a fucking dog, dude. That dude is so damn good. These last 3 weeks, he's been so good. I'm looking at his, like, I'll probably take his sack. I'm going to take his tackles, assists. I'm going to take everything on Cooper because that dude has just kind of taken over that defense. Obviously, Pro Bowler Rashawn Gary in the middle, too. He's going to have the game of his life, bro. He's going to have to be getting double teams every single time and letting Cooper kind of do his thing. But I think that's got to be where I'm going to be betting. It's going to be some of those defensive players for the Packers because those two have been those two in the front and then McKinney in the back. McKinney's going to have to, again, obviously be doing some big things out there. I think what's he set first or second in interceptions this year, Pro Bowler as well. So actually having a guy play, yeah, I'm talking about you, Jair. You freaking sitting every damn game. Sit his ass on the bench. Just cut his ass. Get some money. Because I just can't watch. That dude plays 3 snaps and then goes and sits. So, but McKinney's been – I can't believe we got him. The dude has been just absolutely electric this year. But that's probably where I'm going to go. I think I'm going to be going on like Wicks bets and then probably some bets on Edgerrin Cooper, dude. I'm getting like 350, 325 for a quarter sack. I don't know, man. The dude's been just really, really good for me. So I'm going to probably be sticking to those for our props there. And obviously, I'm going to tease my Packers and the Commanders in their game next. I talked about that on Monday. That's probably going to be the tease spot that I get to. Maybe just because we got Jacob in here, maybe I'll throw the Broncos in there and get them at like 14.5. Hey, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, and I will say, though, my one disagreement is on Wicks there. My first bet of the season was Wicks under receptions as a winner. It wouldn't be bad if that was, first playoff cash as well. Like, man, that guy, talk about can't catch a cold. He's the leader in the category there. I mean, he took over Christian Watson's footsteps of rookie season. Like, Wicks is open all the fucking time. He just doesn't actually catch the ball. So that'll be an interesting one for me. I can't quit Jaden Reed. I will be betting Jaden Reed 100 receiving yards in a parlay of some sort, just because.
I would put rushing in there too, though. I would put rushing in receiving.
You're right.
He's gonna run his ass too, bro. He's gonna run in this game.
I like that. I actually like that more. I'm just gonna bet rushing yards because Jamie, that guy's disappointed the fuck out of me this year. It's more one of those like you got to go down with the ship. I think they're gonna lose here. I gotta donate one more ticket in Jane Reed's honor. But I like that rush yards is actually much sharper. I think that's really creative, and I definitely like that. I'm gonna be playing that.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna bet him. I can't get away from him. I just, after that first game, dude, I was surprised at how well they moved the ball out there in that first matchup. Obviously, I said that Brazil game really doesn't tell you too much because everybody is falling everywhere. But yeah, it's both quarterbacks coming in with a little dinged up as well. It's just kind of, I think it means more to Hurts because it's his head, right? It's his head. He's going to want to run in some of these spots. It's like, do they take that away? Like, are you going to tush push when you're just going to get smacked in the freaking head the whole time, right? And they said Jordan Love could have came back in. Like, I don't think there was that big of an issue there. But, yeah, 301 carries for Josh Jacobs this year, bro. What a fucking dog, dude. Like, that guy is just a tank. I just love watching him run. He just pops out of nowhere. You don't even see him for a second. Then he just goes for 20. It's just fun to watch rather than having Aaron Jones run 10 times and get hurt. So, all right, let's kick it over to we're going to Stu's game. A little bit warmer down in Tampa. Tampa is a 3-point favorite. I don't know where this is a tough one for me. Obviously, we got Stu as our Washington fan here. First time in a few years popping into the playoffs here. Tampa had a little bit of a scare against the Saints in the last week of the season. Probably just trying to force feed Evans, and then they're like, "Oh, we have another receiver in Jalen McMillan," and then he goes off because everybody's trying to get over and cover Mike Evans. I'll kick it to you, Jake. Here, what is your thoughts on this game? We have a big boy total, highest of the weekend. Some fun offenses, some defenses. Should be a fun one. I'm kind of looking forward to a little bit. We get actual shootout, right? We got some AFC North there. We got some good defenses in that from Denver and the Eagles. And now we get one that was just like, oh, all right, let's just see who can score the most.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure they can set this total high enough, to be honest. I think it's going to be a complete shootout. I don't love betting overs of a total of 50.5, but that's the way I would go, if anything, here. Second and third most improved offenses in the NFL in terms of year over year EPA per play gain. And I think both defenses really are vulnerable against what the other offense wants to do here. I think Jaden Daniels is going to put on a show in this game on the ground and through the air. I'll give out my player prop that I like this one. Jaden Daniels over 21.5 pass completions. The Bucs have allowed the most pass completions per game. Their entire secondary is on the injury report, it seems like. If you look at the list right now, I won't read off all the names, but a bunch of injuries on the back end. And then you look at the coverage matchups. The Bucs play heavy rates of single high coverage, and they're first in cover 3. And Jaden Daniels has torched cover 3, 6th in completion percentage, 5th in yards per attempt, and he's been really getting in single high coverage as well. I'll be interested to see if Todd Bowles still wants to do the whole heavy blitz rate against Jaden in this one. Obviously, rookie quarterback making his playoff debut, or if he wants to sit back a little bit more. But we'll see what the scheme is. But I feel like Bowles is the kind of guy just go down with the ship and stick with his blitzing tendencies. And then I'll throw in one more prop here for you guys. Bucky Irving, longest rush. I grabbed it at 16.5. It's up to 17.5, which I would still play. Bucky is just a home run hitter, one of the most explosive backs in the NFL. Commanders 31st in second level rushing yards allowed, and they allow the most yards per carry on man gap scheme runs, which is what Bucky's bread and butter has been this year. He's over this line in 5 of 6 games with, I think it was 14 plus attempts this year. And he's going to get 14 attempts in this game. He might get 20 attempts in this game. He's the lead guy now, full workhorse back in this offense, and schematically just a great spot for him. So I like his base rushing yards over, but I like the longest rush quite a bit for him here.
Yeah, I'll let Stu go last because it's your team, so you're probably have the most to say. When we saw that escalator bet, that's immediately the guy I thought of was Bucky Irving in this spot. Dude, I think this is Rashad White didn't touch the ball. He had 0 touches.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I looked at that. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this guy didn't get anything. I think I still got to use the rushing game in there along with the pass game, just because, dude, I just love how they're getting them the ball, dude. They just find a way to feed them. I love how Stu talked about the Lattimore matchup with Mike Evans. I think that kind of gets those guys going a little bit there. I wish I could bet on like pass interference drawn, because I'd probably take like 2 or 3 or flags drawn in that game, because those two are just going to go at it. But I think if I'm going somewhere, I think I'm going to be going into Bucky Irvin, and I'm going to go over to I think I got a bet on Zach Ertz this week, dude. I got to do it again. I saw Tampa's allowing almost 9 targets to tight end so far this year, 6.5 receptions to the tight end position. And that's just, I'm just using that over the last 7 weeks here, where I've been looking at the tight end and kind of just betting against the Tampa Bay team and almost every single week in DFS, because they get torched, dude. They just keep getting torched through the air. They have a decent run defense, but I'm going to be on Zach Ertz again, dude. I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to go back to the well, probably bet on his touchdown. Just because, dude, when Jane Daniels is in a rush, dude, that's where he's going now. Obviously, last week I don't take as much into it just because we saw Mariota for a little while on that one too. But, yeah, I think I'm going to be going to Ertz, and I think I'm going to be going to Bucky. I think those will be the 2 spots I would like here. Can you bet an under? Like, I don't think I could bet an under. I don't think I could do it, dude. I've seen way too many games like Washington against that Dallas team, right? When we watched that game, just big play. You knew it was coming too. And I think with that, just being able to have a guy like McMillan on that side to kind of, not fully take over the Chris Godwin role, but just be a number 2, right? Be a guy that can take something away from Mike Evans and just getting a double over there. So I think that's important there, and possibly getting Cade Otton back could be really big for this team as well. So those would be the 2 guys. I think I kind of lean the over. And you guys already know I'm betting. I'm going to be betting a teaser with the Washington side, because I can't give them that many points. So shout out Washington. Hopefully they can do it for me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, man. This is going to be a great game. Obviously, I agree with you guys. I will have one under bet in this game, 100%. If you do want my under bet, you can go check it out in the 4-4 Discord. I haven't posted it yet. I'm waiting for the line will get better, because people are only betting overs in this one. But I'm just saying, you said no unders. I do like 1 under in the game. But for the most part, I do agree with you. I don't know how you're going under at 50.5 as well. Like you said, just too many good situations here. That Tampa Bay secondary is truly torched right now in terms of the injury report. My biggest thing is just like, how able is Washington going to be to take advantage of that, right? Noah Brown was such a big loss in my opinion. Then you're stuck with Diami Brown as your wide receiver too. The guy can't really catch a ball. Luke McCaffrey gets a couple snaps here and there, but it's kind of it's Terry McLaurin or bust. So I do like your Zach Ertz call
no love for Olamide Zaccheaus, man.
Zaccheaus been okay. He's been okay. I mean, I haven't been betting on him. I know my guy Ryan Noonan's made money on him these last couple weeks, so no hate on it. But I just think the step down from Noah Brown to Zaccheaus is pretty evident, not only in the run blocking game, but also just downfield ability in general. I just think Zaccheaus, he's come up with a couple big catches, and Daniels is going to need someone to do that in this game. So I would hope it can be him. But I think Daniels runs a lot. Cam in the chat asked about Jane Daniels rushing. Big fan this week. I think he goes absolutely crazy on the ground. I think look what they did in the most important game of the year against Atlanta. I think that'll be the roadmap for what they do in this game. And he ran the ball 16 times in that game. So, safety gloves are off. It's playoff time. You're going balls to the wall. You're throwing everything you can at it. And Washington is so reliant on Jaden Daniels that this is a sink or swing game. Everything's based on him, because I really think this Washington defense gets a lot of credit it really doesn't deserve at the moment. I like Mikey Sanderstrail, solid secondary corner, but McMillan has really been coming on. That's a guy I'm scared of right now. He had some fantastic catches last game. Talked about him preseason in our best ball show, a guy that I was always a lot higher on than market, finally sticking out a little bit, showing what he's got. Evans versus Lattimore is an interesting one. They've got a lot of history. Each side has won a couple of those battles. So that's one I'm really hoping that Lattimore's 100%. It seems the hamstring stuff's kind of bothered him all year long. Obviously took him out after just one game. But that's such a huge difference. It's such a huge difference. Not having to see Mike Davis or St. Juste out there is so incredibly impactful. So, I'm taking Washington this one in the points. I think this is a fairly even game. I want Washington to win, obviously. That's not a secret here. But I think Jaden Daniels can do enough to keep this game close. I obviously love the Bucky Irving talk. I think he's going to crush. It's so sad they finally realized Rachaad White wasn't the guy when they have to face my team in the playoffs. Like, we've done this for 2 years. We couldn't do one more game of Rachaad White. Like Bucky Irving's so good. And it's unfortunate that he's probably going to have a really good game against Washington. But hey, Jaden Daniels is live. We've seen it, his late game composure. I'd put up there with the best in the league right now. The guy, I mean, he's got ice in his veins. I'm not worried about him on the road. The composure is not a problem here. He looks like a seasoned vet out there to me. So I think this is a pick'em game. I think it's going to be a really close one. So give me Washington in the points.
Yeah, I think it's kind of annoying there a little bit that they waited till best ball season was over to start letting Bucky go crazy and let McMillan go. I had so much of both of them, and they just wait too long, and the season's over already, guys. So I know, Jake, you got to pop out here. We got one question for you here from our guy MCI. Question for Jacob: how much better has Washington's pass defense been on the back end of the season? I know they were really bad. We were fading them a lot early on. Do you have any thoughts on that with the Washington pass defense heading against Baker here?
I think schematically it's gotten a little bit better. I think they figured out a few, like Dan Quinn's figured out a few things on the back end. They still suck. I'll just be honest. It's still not a good pass defense. I will throw in right before I have to run here. I'm excited to see this matchup between Jalen McMillan and Mikey Stanistrol faced off in the national title game in college football last year, Washington and Michigan. Incidentally, a year ago today, for my Michigan Wolverines won the national title. So we'll see if McMillan can get a little revenge in that matchup this week. But yeah, I got to run. Apologies, guys, but super fun jumping on with you.
No, we appreciate you. We probably won't even talk the last game. We'll get that on Monday. So you actually got through the whole slate with us. We appreciate you. Make sure you guys go follow him. Our guy Jacob Wayne over on Twitter. I know he's got plays galore ready for you guys over on X. Yep. So you got anything?
Yeah, I would just say Jacob's one of the best free prop guys out there right now. If you found him at any point through the season, you should have made money, and that's so rare. So if you want good analysis, good free props, if you like what we do here, you're definitely going to like Jacob's stuff as well. So make sure you definitely give him a follow.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep, we'll let you pop on. We'll appreciate you for popping on. Hopefully, maybe we'll get you back in before the playoffs get over here. Maybe get you back on.
Love that, man. Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good one, guys.
Yep, have a good one, man. All right, Stu. We got through all the games. We'll wait till Monday. I know we thought we were going to run it through, but we'll wait till Monday to talk about the Vikings-Rams. Obviously, a huge game, the closest spread of all of them. Should be big. Let's get our final thing here. Dog picks. Obviously, this is what we've been good at. We've been rolling here. Shout out Carolina. I'm going to give you another shout out, bro. You guys have been money. Yeah. I think I hit him again on week 18, bro. If I actually had a brim, I would take my hat off, but I ain't going to do that. My hair is everywhere, so I ain't going to do that. But dog picks, Stu. Unfortunately, Carolina didn't make the playoffs, and I can't bet them again. But where are you going this week? We got some pretty big spreads out there, guys. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a fun week. Any thoughts here? I will exclude our own teams from each other.
You can't. I got to pick them. Got to pick the Commanders. Sorry. That's the dog of the week.
I can't do that. You got to pick somebody else. I can't pick my Packers either. I want to pick my Packers. I can't do it. We can't pick our own team. You know that, too. We got to get away from our own team.
But I need to be giving the people an honest representation of what I'm betting. And in terms of what I'm betting, none of these other dogs are likely going to make the list. Maybe the Texans. That's the only one. But everyone hated my Texans pick. Like, I don't want to – you know what I mean? We've been so good on the dogs. I don't want to fall with the Texans here when everyone hated that pick. I want to go with the one that I like the most, you know? So I'm just saying, Commanders will be my biggest bet of the week in terms of a spread. But if we do want to cancel that out, my second biggest – will be on the Texans, and it'll be a much smaller bet. So if we want to exclude our teams, we can go Texans. I'm just letting you guys know where the money goes, because that's really what matters. It's where the money goes.
I can't in good faith pick our own teams. We gotta give them what the
okay.
Just so we can't have people say, "Oh, you're picking your favorite team."
Yeah, fuck those people.
Yeah. I'm saying, hey, I'm not disagreeing with you. You know where I'd go if I had the opportunity, but we'll switch it off here. I think if I had to, I probably would lean with the Broncos. They're giving me that many. And like I said, I think it gets pushed up. I do think it's going to get pushed up because
Yeah.
How many money line parlays are coming in with Buffalo? Everybody's been talking about Josh Allen. I think all those guys, you know what's going to happen. It's going to happen where everybody's going to bet on Houston or everybody's going to bet on the Steelers. They're going to lose their money, and guess what? How am I going to make my money back? Oh, yeah, Eagles, Buffalo, money line parlay. That's literally what everybody's going to do. They're all going to do that, and I'm going to be taking the dogs on the other side at the higher prices because I think both of those are going to start moving towards the favorite just because of how much action is going to be coming in in those parlays. Just because you see it all the time. And my biggest one is always in UFC when you lose the first couple fights and then it's just like, holy shit, that just moved like 200 minus 200, like $2 just because everybody's losing and they're throwing it on money line parlays. One of the big ones going to lose this week, bro. I'm telling you that right now because it kind of has to. Like I don't see it being like college football where all the dogs win, right? Where all the when they come in and because guess what? All of the favorites won the first round, and then all of those teams that played the first round beat the second in the second week. So I think that we're going to see one of them go down because Vegas has to. They can't let all the favorites win. So I think there'll be a couple dogs get the job done. Fantasy better. We are actually going to do all of our props on Friday. We actually didn't drop any of the props. We gave you some leans that we like. I'm sure I'm going to find a way to mix in what I talked about today into Friday. But Friday's show is for our picks exclusively. This one was just more of like a breakdown, giving you guys some spots. So again, the show is about making you guys better bettors on your own as well. If you got something from our information today that you think, oh wow, that really should add in to go to this certain player, that's something that you guys can do before we get to those because maybe we see some line movement, right? So maybe you guys can grab those early, find those guys that can make you money early. And then we'll obviously have plays for you guys on Friday. So we'll be ready to go. Make sure you got your calendars picked out there because we're going to be dropping, I'm sure, quite a few spots here on the show.
Yeah, and I will say, someone asked our favorite escalator bets earlier. You guys both answered. I didn't give one. So I will give one to end off the show right here. It's Austin Eckler receiving yards. Oh, I love that spot. 40 receiving yards. Right now it's plus 500. 50's plus 900. And obviously like 25 is like 180. So, man, I love Austin Eckler back in the lineup. Obviously just got back last week, took over as the number one back in that game. I mean, if you're expecting them to be trailing or expecting them to be dropping back more, Eckler's got to be out there. And this is a Todd Bowles team that blitzes like crazy. Jacob talked about it. I didn't really get to add on too much, but I fully agreed with what he said. Todd Bowles has a secondary that is dust right now. What does Todd Bowles do? He sends the house at you. When you got a secondary that's dust and he's going to die on his sword. He's going to send the fucking house. He's going to try to make Daniels uncomfortable. You got to get the ball out quickly. You got to make split decisions. And I think the checkdowns are going to be a big part of it. Eckler had over 50 receiving yards in their first matchup earlier in the year. And I would not be surprised if that happened again. So you get a nice 500 on 40 receiving yards. I think that's a very good spot. And yeah, you guys, I liked your escalator spots as well, but I didn't drop one in there, and I knew I had to before we got out of here. And I figured you'd probably like Austin Eckler in some way as well. We both cashed on him this year. It would be a great way to start the playoffs. It's a nice little Austin Eckler ladder.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think I don't know if I would say it's my favorite just because I am going to be very invested in Zach Ertz, and I feel like they're going to fight for the same targets. So I feel like it's going to be tough for me to bet both, but maybe that would be because I'm sure he's going to be one of my long shots on the show for Friday. But maybe if we bet both on the ladders, and I'm sure one of them's going to get there because you're going to see a lot of throwing in this game because Tampa's going to be able somebody talked about it earlier in here in the chat. We haven't seen Brian Robinson do too much lately, right? We haven't seen that. And if they turn it to, hey, we're going to be just letting Jane Daniels do his thing, which obviously I think they're going to have to because I think has to turn into a shootout for Washington because I don't think Tampa's going to have any issue scoring on them. I really don't. So,
exactly.
I think that kind of leads us to those two guys. Terry obviously is going to get all the attention. As much as I like what we've seen from Zacchaeus, I'm not fully bought in. I would rather lean to guys that are going to be getting a lot safer, easier targets, and I like both of those guys. So I think that's the only thing. That's the only thing holding me off is how much I like Zach Ertz. And again, Tampa is bad enough defensively where I can probably get both. right? Where I could probably get to both. It's just that's literally my only hang up on betting Eckler because I love Eckler.
No, I'm fully with you too. I agree. My thing, I went to look at Ertz this morning. 6 catches was plus 250. So I'm kind of like, they know, they're ready. Because I agree. I think Ertz is in a prime position to cook. I bet him live after the first drive last game. Like Daniels, that's his go-to short yardage guy, fully with it. It's just like the prices are legit now. Like he's a 4.5 reception guy as his base. It's plus money, but still, you're not really getting that 3.5 plus money or 2.5 juiced like it was early. And for me, that's where I like Ertz. I like Ertz in the underrated, shorter yardage zone, but he should definitely cook. I fully agree. I just think Eckler, they've underpriced him a little bit more dramatically than Ertz. But for like a base prop, I do like Ertz a lot. I just wish the latter prices were a little bit more generous.
Beautiful. All right, guys, we're heading out. We're out of here for today. Make sure you guys bring in those prop questions for Friday. We will have bets ready for you guys, ready to roll, putting those out for you guys then. Should be good. 40 of you guys in here live with us. Hit that like button if you could. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Obviously, make sure you go follow Jacob. He gives us great knowledge, great insight on those. Truly just learned today that he was a Denver fan. I had no idea. So that actually worked out really well that all 3 of our teams are playing on Sunday. Hey, one of them's got to get the dub, right? All 3 of them heading in as the dogs. Hey, one of them's got to get the dub. Unfortunately, I think Denver's going to have a tough time with Josh Allen. So hopefully one of our teams can make it through, Stu, and hopefully we can get some winners heading forward. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys Friday, normal time, ready to go. Should be a fun one. Have a good one, guys, and good luck tonight.